This exchange stunned Washington. Senator Tim Kaine isn't just questioning policy, he's questioning whether the U.S. is quietly trying to run another country without admitting it. And what he says about Venezuela is explosive.
You're now going to have a chance to ask Secretary Rubio questions about the strategy towards Venezuela, beyond the operation, the authorization powers of the executive. What are your main questions about the strategy that the administration is pursuing in Venezuela?
So do you want to, because I have some, but why don't you start?
Sure. Well, I guess I would start off with how can we expect, without having to deploy boots on the ground, that we are going to run Venezuela for the foreseeable future? How is that supposed to work? The whole corrupt apparatus of the Maduro regime endures. His corrupt number two is in power. There's obviously little or no effort to bring back to the country those who won the last election in Venezuela. What will we do if they don't comply? Will we deploy our military to safeguard American oil companies and their exploitation of oil resources there? What is the plan to run that country at a distance? And is that the least bit credible? We've invested a lot more blood and treasure trying to run other countries with far less success. So that's essentially what I would want to try to get at.
I want to ask some questions about the legal rationale. So Marco Rubio is the Secretary of State, and he's a lawyer, and it was the OLC at State that issued the legal opinions that I have found so wanting. And so I'm going to ask him some questions about legal rationale. I think, as Adam said, there's a whole series of going forward questions, like why did you decide that Maduro's VP, who has been called Maduro's Tigress, should be running the country rather than the opposition leadership that the Venezuelan public just voted overwhelmingly for. And I watched interviews with Venezuelans on the street in the Miami area who were happy on Saturday, but on Sunday, when they saw President Trump declare that Corina Machado was not the right person to be the leader because she didn't have the respect within the country, I saw what a gut punch that was to them. What a gut punch it is to the opposition to see Delcy Rodriguez now as the president. So I want to ask about that. And then I want to ask about when you say the Venezuelans aren't ready for elections, what, the U.S. gets to decide when people are entitled to have their own elections now? I mean, that's an outrage. We wouldn't let anybody make that decision about us. And then I'm going to ask, I have to dig into the, quote, commitments that have been made and try to really pin down what those commitments mean. So there will be an awful lot of questions, but those are some basics.
And if I just add on, on the legal question, if this was, as they have represented, merely a law enforcement operation, with the military support being used to provide protection for essentially the execution of a warrant on a fugitive, then once Maduro was brought to court in Brooklyn, that would have been the end of it. So if that was the legal basis to apprehend him, what's the legal basis for a continued running of Venezuela? Because that vastly exceeds anything I think their legal opinion would justify.
Yeah, and we can't talk about, I mean, it's outrageous. We really can't talk about the legal rationale because they won't declassify it. In fact, I don't know if this happened to you, Adam. In reading the legal rationale for boat strikes in Venezuela, they bring somebody from the Department of Justice in to sit and watch me read it. That hadn't happened for 13 years. In a skiff where I have to leave everything out and I can't take anything with me, no administration has ever brought in a minder to sit over my shoulder and watch me read it. And the first time that happened, I had a question in the middle of it, and I thought they were sitting there to answer my questions, and I said, hey, what does this mean? Oh, we're not allowed to answer questions. What, you're just here to watch me read it? I asked my minder today, why is the DOJ sending a minder in to watch me read a legal rationale? Well, I don't know. I've just been told I have to be here to watch you read the legal rationale. They are so paranoid about the facts of this getting out, but we'll be able to dig into some of our concerns when we have this hearing. Yeah.
Tim Kaine isn't dancing around the issue. He's calling it what it is, a dangerous, opaque strategy with no clear endgame. If this was merely a law enforcement operation, then why does it suddenly look like the U.S. is positioning itself to manage Venezuela's future from afar? Kaine exposes the contradictions. No boots on the ground, yet expectations of control, elections dismissed as not ready, by who exactly, a U.S.-approved leader installed while the actual election winner is sidelined, legal justifications so sensitive they require minders watching senators read them. This isn't just about Venezuela. It's about executive power, secrecy, and whether America learned anything from past regime change disasters. Kaine's frustration signals a deeper fear that history is repeating itself quietly behind classified walls.